Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and welcome everybody to the review of the latest action film, The Furious. No, not The Fast and the Furious, just The Furious, unaffiliated with Vin Diesel and his gang. In this film, it follows an ordinary tradesman whose daughter is kidnapped, and with a journalist's help, he has to fight a criminal empire on his way to rescue her. This film stars Xie Miao. I hope I'm saying his name right. Pretty sure I butchered it, and my deepest apologies for doing so. And Joe Taslim, who you may recognize from that show Warrior that was on Cinemax. Most recently in the Mortal Kombat films, he was Sub-Zero, and also he is a part of the Raid franchise. Fans of that film franchise, which I absolutely adore. Those are two of the best action movies to come out in the last 20 years, in my humble opinion. He is phenomenal in everything that he's in. I think he's one of the most underrated action heroes globally. You know, maybe he gets his respect overseas, but not so much here in the United States. He don't pop up in a lot of United States produced films, but he is awesome. Not just his fighting and his action, but he is a really talented actor. And this film, even though it's a scrap in testosterone filled action martial arts film, it has some deep subject matters that's going on with human trafficking and things of that nature, and it handles this subject well. To say that it's just a typical action film, you know, but it's more. I was so looking forward to this movie. As I mentioned before, I'm a huge fan of The Raid. Now, this isn't from the makers of The Raid. We have a few actors that pop up in this film that were in The Raid, but this isn't the same team that brought us that just masterpiece of an action martial arts film. But just to compare, because I know people are going to compare it, for the simple fact you have familiar faces that pop up in this film, it doesn't mount up to The Raid, nor was I expecting it to. And I'm making this point because I don't want people to get twisted and turned and think that this is an offshoot of The Raid. It's a completely different film. You know, just because you have similar actors that are in the movie doesn't mean that we're going to get a carbon copy of that movie. Now, with that being said, yeah, there are moments in this movie that has similar action sequences that take place. You know, the one take action hallway fight and stuff like that. Yeah. But that's in every action movie. Now, it was started or made famous in The Raid, but and done so well. In this film, it's done excellently as well. I guess you can compare it to that movie in that aspect of it, but that's where it stops. This movie is completely different in every single way, as far as the story that's being told, the acting prowess that's being told, because there's a bigger story. And at the root of it, at the core of it, it's a father and daughter story, you know, more or less a father story. And I think it's coming out at the perfect time, you know, around Father's Day. Well, at least Father's Day is right around the corner. And it's an odd movie to play for Father's Day. I don't see dads taking their little daughters to go see the Furious. But for fathers of girls, young ladies like myself, I connected to this movie a lot more than I was expecting to connect with it. You know, I just wanted to sit there and see people get bashed in the head with a hammer. But instead, I got a deeper appreciation to it because of this father's quest to rescue his daughter from these human traffickers. And I just imagine while watching this movie, what would I do? What links would I go through, or what hoops would I jump through to get my daughters back if they were caught up in this situation? Pretty much the same thing he's going through, our main character here, who is a mute. He doesn't speak in the movie. But our lead here, whose name I butchered earlier, and I'm not going to do it again out of respect, he is phenomenal. It takes acting prowess to pull off a performance, whereas you don't say one single word throughout the film, but still tell a story, can still convey emotion. You know what he's thinking in certain moments without speaking. And that takes skill. You know, not everybody can pull that off. And while doing that, he's kicking people's behinds. You know, it's so refreshing to see a film like this. It really is a film that delivers on action, but delivers on story and emotion, and has some really good acting throughout. I love seeing that, you know, because you could tell that the filmmakers here, the actors here, everybody behind and in front of the camera really wanted to tell this story and gave it their all. And it's shown on the screen. This movie has some of the most innovative fight choreography you're going to see in a movie. Because at this point in our lives, we done seen every kind or every form of martial arts. Okay, we've seen the wire work. We've seen the old school Wu-Tang Clan, well, not Clan, but the old Wu-Tang style of fighting, the samurai and all this stuff. We've seen it. The Matrix, jumping in the air, doing 50 kicks before you land, all that good stuff. We've seen every kind of spin kick you could see in film. And so if we're going forward and we're trying to give you something new, what can we do? This film figures it out. It is such a chaotic, just, I don't know, man, wild, beastly type of choreography that looks so unchoreographed, yet choreographed at the same time. It is mind-blowing to see how these guys and gals, I should say, they had some females in here too that were kicking some butt, but how they pulled this off, and not just one-on-one, we're talking multiples. Another nugget that I loved about this film: very rarely did you get a one-on-one fight. It was 20v1. You know, it was always a gang jumping one person or two people, and they had to outpower those people and find innovative ways to find it without doing the typical Jackie Chan way, you know, using props, even though they did, but they used it not in a comedic way. They used it in a matter that was realistic. Like, you could sit there and be like, okay, if I had got my hands on that, you know, this is how I would use it. And that's exactly how they used it. This was brutal in every sense of the word. Absolutely loved it. Loved the fact that it wasn't just one-on-one fights throughout. It was rare that you got a one-on-one fight in this film. It was more 1v20 throughout the movie. These guys had to fight 10, 15, 20 guys at the same time. And they took beatings. It wasn't your, you know, Neo in The Matrix Reloaded where he was untouchable because he was basically Jesus. It was none of that. These guys took a beating, and I was concerned throughout the entire film. no matter what level they went through, were they going to make it through? Are they going to make it through? Are they going to make it through to make it through to the another next level? You know, it was that brutal of a beating. It gave it that little sense of reality, you know, to whereas you can sympathize with them and get behind them even more. Like, come on, you can make it. You know, that type of cheering for our heroes in this story. It was brutal fights, man. It was. I'm telling you, some of the best fight choreography I've seen in a very, very long time. There's one scene in particular where our two heroes are fighting two other guys, and they're struggling. They're struggling mightily. And then they add another one to the bad guy side, but he's actually more of a, in-betweener. So he's fighting everybody. So it was like, it was so wild, but the way they choreographed it in the cinematography to capture everything that was going on, because it was wild. This is some wild choreography that was taking place. And the way they filmed it, and you can see what each and every individual was doing simultaneously. It was mind-blowing. Some of the best fight choreography, cinematography you're going to see in a martial arts film. I tip my hat to it. The action, without a doubt, is A+. There's nothing negative to say about the action in this film. The story, I will say, there's some plot holes that take place throughout the film. Not enough to sit there and say, man, this movie was stupid, or this is an unrealistic plot, you know, because this is an action movie. At the end of the day, it's an action movie. It's a throwback action film with some modern storytelling. And, you just got to suspend disbelief on some things and just brush past it like, okay, that doesn't make sense, but fine. Fine. We're on to the next thing. But at this point, I just want to see more fighting. So it's not deep enough of plot holes to throw you off the story. I will say that this is, like I mentioned earlier, this is a very emotional story at times. I really did get a little choked up, in the most awkward moments. It'll be like a little pause, a little intermission between the fights, and we get a moment, with between two of our characters here, and you're like, oh my God. And it's not like a cheesy type thing. It was real. It was a real moment, and it just hit you in the feels. Now, one thing, I was so scared at the end of this movie. I was so scared they was gonna do this cheesy thing that involved our hero's daughter and another character at the very end, and I was like, please don't do this. please don't do this. Yeah, I was doing so well, but it didn't happen. And what they did instead of what I thought they were going to do was actually genius. It was a genius thing. I guess they did that as a swerve to kind of get everybody in that mood, like I was like, oh my God, no. And then went in a completely different direction that actually worked for the film, made it much, much better. Awesome movie. I highly recommend it. It's up there. It's up there with The Raid. Doesn't overtake The Raid, but it's up there with The Raid as one of my favorite action movies of the, I'm not going to say 20 years. I'll just go as far back as 10. One of my favorite action movies I've seen in the last 10 years. The Furious gets a letter grade of an A-. Yeah, it is really, really good. I can't speak on it enough. I can't speak on it enough. And I need Hollywood to really, really start blowing up Joe Taslim's phone. This dude is amazing. He is amazing. And he's not even the star. He's not the lead star in this movie. But I can't express how awesome he is. Overall, he's awesome in the movie, but overall, he is so good in the story that he's telling. That the journey that he's going on is so heartbreaking and tough. It's tough to watch, and what he's going through is as equal to what our lead character is going through, trying to rescue his daughter. Joe Taslim's his story, what he's going through is up there with that. It's brutal, man. It is a brutal story, emotionally, and even more brutal what he goes through physically. But I would like to know, are you planning on checking out The Furious? Are you excited? Do you like these type of action movies? Did you like The Raid? If you like The Raid, you will like The Furious. I would love to know your thoughts. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of The Furious. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.